Zack Wheeler is taking Vargas' spring training start on Thursday. You could see that he was super excited about it. The most common reaction to the Vargas news is basically the realization that the 5 aces, these guys in this rotation, Noah, Jacob, Harvey, Matz, Wheeler, could all finally be in the rotation at once.
Just like the Mets drew it up 5 years ago because of a Jason Vargas injury.
Yeah, exactly. But it is interesting, Andy, that an injury is finally potentially causing them all to be in the rotation.
Right, of course, because it was injuries that, of course, prevented this from happening all along. But what it just goes to show is that you cannot draw a roadmap for how to put a team or an organization together. Alderson got here in late 2010. He saw he had some pitching. He figured he'd build this up around pitching. And he actually made the World Series and then the playoffs the following year without ever having that pitching. There were guys that were coming in and out. Harvey, obviously, not what he was hoped to be. Wheeler, not at all what he was hoped to be. But they made it work for a decent little run anyway, and now they're going to have those guys together one time through.
Sandy's thrilled by it.
Yeah, he can't wait.
But I think it does mean something to the fans because fans have seen all these guys grow up in the organization. Even though someone came in trades, they still grew up in this organization. I do think fans like that, and we can't call them the 5 aces anymore for obvious reasons, but I do still think there's something there about seeing these guys all pitch at the same time. And I think it sets up some real early season intrigue. For one thing, it gives Wheeler a chance to prove he should stay. Matz looked really good today. That's as good as I've seen him pitch in a long time. And he looks like he's just gaining confidence. So it kind of sets up the question, if Wheeler and Matz both pitch well early in the year, would the Mets actually pull Harvey out if Harvey doesn't match them? You know, Harvey's been the guy who's kind of been untouchable because he's going into his walk year and all that. I think it's going to be really interesting because they're going to want to get Vargas back in there at some point for the money they're paying him. But if these guys all pitch well, what do they do then?
So I guess the difference being that Vargas being the odd man out here because of injury means that the odd man out to start the season is going to go back in no matter what. If Wheeler had started the season outside of the rotation, you don't know if he would have earned a spot back in.
Right. The whole reason that Vargas is on this team is because of the 200-inning potential that he brings them. So, yes, that's what he's going to do. He's going to eat innings at the back end of that rotation when he comes back. So you're right, John. It opens up that rotation discussion in a way that it hadn't been this interesting all spring.
Yeah.
Wheeler was going to the bullpen almost certainly. Matz solidified. If there were still a competition, if Vargas were healthy, Matz would have solidified his rotation spot today.
That's what we would have been talking about.
Right, if he hadn't already. I think he had already. So that puts Wheeler in the bullpen. You could see Zack Wheeler, you know, a teammate's injured, but he still has a smile on his face because he's like, he gets to start. That's what he wants to do. So now he's back in there, and if Vargas is ready to come back, and this gets hypothetical, but like you said, if it's Harvey who has a bad first turn through, then it's a different conversation. It's going to be a merit-based system in the regular season when you have to win games.
If they're all pitching well, I think they'll find a way to say, listen, Vargas needs a little more time, give these guys, because at some point, something's probably going to happen where somebody either kind of finds his way out of it, pitches himself out of the rotation, or maybe there's another injury or something. But you know, I don't think they can just force Vargas in there because money or not that they're paying him, he's still, you know, if these guys are all right, I think he's the 6th guy. You know,
but sure, the lowest ceiling, and we've seen this stuff that Wheeler still has.
Yeah, when he's right.
Right. The problem is putting it together. The problem is being efficient with his pitches and commanding the fastball. But he's still throwing 97 and occasionally a little higher. He's still got the big curveball. So there's that potential there still.
But I guess my question would be this: you've both been in Port St. Lucie this spring. Do you really feel like if Matt Harvey doesn't perform, that it's a realistic option?
Well, it has to be at some point because
I know it's rational to think about it that way.
In spring training, they can say you can make we do it too, make results of what you want.
Right.
But in the regular season, the results are the results, and at some point they have to address that. If the other two guys are clearly better than Harvey, say through 3 or 4 turns, you can't just say, well, we're going to stick with this guy just because he's in his walk year or whatever.
And because he's in his walk year, frankly, I mean, that's one of the reasons they think he's going to be good. But it's also one of the reasons that the Mets need to care about Matt Harvey's feelings less than ever right now. These other two guys are still under control beyond this year. If Harvey can't hack it, and this is getting way ahead of ourselves. He's had a decent
I was going to say, we've created a hypothetical 2 weeks into the season world.
But it's interesting to think about the permutations and how Harvey's job was not at all in question.
Right.
And it isn't now either. But it means with Wheeler in that rotation, like anyone else in any situation, once they get a job, they can hold it if they perform.
Because they're all capable of pitching at high ceilings, as you said. And look, over the course of the season, there's no way these 5 guys are going to make all the starts. So you're going to need Vargas and probably somebody else. But it does create some early season intrigue.
And by the way, I mean, we've talked about bad performances in spring training. We've talked about expectations and how they might be too high for some of these guys. Steven Matz, what he did today, we should talk about that because it's a legitimately good start against an actual A lineup, one of the best lineups in baseball, if not the best. So for Steven Matz, that was a statement start today.
Yeah, no, the question for him, of course, is just the durability. So good thing for the Mets and good thing for Matz. He's healthy going into the season. He's going to get out of the gate. He's going to be in that rotation. And then you just hope, for the Mets' sake, that he doesn't fall into that same pattern of always where he's going to throw 5 to 7 outstanding starts, go into decline a little. You find out there's an injury, 2 months on the DL. Well, that's the pattern that we've always seen pretty much through his career. But right now, he's riding one of those peaks, and if he can stay healthy.
Hey, I loved what he was, he had to love watching him today. I don't know if it's the island influence, but he was standing some right-handed hitters up with that fastball on the inside of the plate, and then throwing his breaking stuff and his changeup. I mean, he looked really good, and as you said, that's a legit lineup. And he pitched some dominant couple innings.
He's not going to face a better lineup than that for the rest of the year until they meet in the World Series, of course.